What's going on, guys? Welcome back to this year's Halloween Spooktacular. I'm having a lot of fun talking some horror movies for this Halloween season. Today, I'm going to be talking about one that's on Hulu, one that I wasn't aware of before. I know it came out this year, and that is It Feeds. I have no idea when this was released this year. This stars Ashley Greene as a psychotherapist. And a clairvoyant therapist confronts her own personal demons while trying to save a young girl who believes a malevolent entity is feeding on her. This is one of those movies that I found on Hulu just browsing what they had for movies one day. You ever come across one of those movies where you don't really know what it is, but you're kind of curious, and then you read the description, and you're like, "Ugh, well, that just sounds bad." But you're still curious, and you keep wanting to come back to it days later just to see what it's like, and then you start watching it, and you're like, "Huh, maybe it's not that bad." And at the end of it all, when end credits roll, you think to yourself, "Huh, that was actually above average. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be." It Feeds is one of those movies because let's just face it, a lot of these movies that go to streaming services that are kind of hidden gems like this. I'm not even going to classify this as a hidden gem, even though I did like it. But these types of movies, you know what they are. They're pretty bad most of the time, but It Feeds is actually surprisingly trying to scare you. Pretty effective horror movie, if you ask me. What I like about this movie is it just gets right to it. Within the first 5 minutes, bang, you're right into what the movie is actually about. There's not a lot of backstory in these first few minutes. A lot of these movies contain exponential amounts of backstory to try and get you latching onto the characters. This movie does that through different types of sequences throughout the movie. And you actually do start to care about these characters the more that you see things unravel and unfold and who these characters actually are and what is actually happening in this movie. And I think it was definitely an unconventional and, in a way, fresh way to try and tell a story like this. Just getting right into what the movie is actually doing. I was very appreciative of that. I didn't really have to sit through a whole lot of exposition, even though all of that does come later. And sometimes it gets a little too heavy handed, or it doesn't feel like that the movie really coalesces all that well, since there's so much information being packed into such a short runtime of an hour and 40 minutes that sometimes it's just there's too much information, there's too many characters, there's too many plot threads that are kind of left dangling. But I did find myself appreciative of it, that it did try something different, that it just got you right in there. This family dynamic between this mother and this daughter, the mother Cynthia, played by Ashley Greene, and her daughter Jordan, I really liked this because this could have also went a completely different way. Usually how this works is that the mother or the father figure or whatever it may be, maybe even a sibling or a different family member, they have this type of power, or this, in this case, Cynthia has clairvoyance, and her daughter is a clairvoyance as well. And in a movie like this, you'll usually find characters being completely annoyed by the fact that their relatives are clairvoyant, and they just brush it off under the rug and be like, "No, you're a psycho. You're weird. No, get away from me." And then they would have to actually believe them later on in the movie and be like, "Okay, maybe you were right." No, this movie doesn't do that. Right off the bat, it shows how these two work together. They're a dynamic team. Jordan is being trained to be just like her mother. She's actually helping out her mother with her clients and her patients. And Jordan is a driven person. And that's what I really liked about this. She's never second guessing or questioning exactly what her mother does as a clairvoyant. She rolls along with it. She wants to be a clairvoyant as well. That's really what makes this dynamic so good to me. This movie is really effective too with its jump scares. Within those first 5 minutes, right when it gets into the meat and gritty of it all, jump scare. And unexpected jump scares. This creature, this entity, whatever you want to call it, you could call this a creature feature if you want. This thing is actually pretty terrifying. It doesn't rely on blood and guts or anything. You would think that with a title like It Feeds that there would be massive amounts of gore in this movie, and there's not, surprisingly and shockingly. But it's not even as grotesque as you would think it would be, but it is like kind of like gross to look at. And they did a really good job. I don't think that this is CGI. I think it's all practical. So the makeup, the prosthetics on this actress or actor playing this entity, this creature, that's what makes it so good and so terrifying. It makes it believable. That you don't want to see this thing pop up on screen. And they do a really good job of moving it around the frame in places you don't expect it to be. All of a sudden, there will be a scene where somebody's walking down a hallway, it'll cut away, and then all of a sudden it'll be it behind them. And I know that's kind of a cliche, but here it's very effective because it just how the creature, the entity itself, looks terrifying. and you don't want to be anywhere near it. There's loud music that accompanies it. It's a whole Oh man, I will not lie when I say I jumped out of my seat a few times, being like, "What the fuck was that?" Like that was my gut reaction half the time. There are a few fallacies with this movie. As I was hinting at before, I don't think everything really connects together all that much. There's this side character named Agatha because it's a horror movie. Of course, there's got to be a character named Agatha, who's really played for comic relief. None of that comic relief stuff really worked. It's not as gory as you would think it is. It's not as bloody or as over the top as you would probably want it to be. This is like kind of what I would say along the lines of Conjuring type of scares, like it's trying to get that type of scares out of you, but it's nowhere near as effective, even if the movie is effective. I don't think the ending necessarily worked for me. There's something that happens with how they try to take down this entity, and I'm like, why are we dressed like this, and where the hell are we right now? So sometimes the rules as to how this thing actually works, how they can take care of it, and what it actually does, it doesn't make all that much sense, or the rules don't feel like they're fully explained. I think this could have benefited from another 10 to 15 minutes for a runtime to try and hammer out everything and try and make everything coalesce and make it all seem seamless. There's just an overabundance of side characters, subplots, plot threads that are left dangling that aren't necessarily explained, and some rules regarding this entity that don't really make all that much sense. It could have really benefited from all that. I think it just needed a bit of a tighter script. This is also another one of those horror movies that is touching upon the themes of grief and trauma, and I'm just kind of tired of it at this point. Like, sure, does it do it effectively? Yeah, I think it does. It does it in ways some other horror movies don't, so it does keep the idea of it fresh, but I don't know, like, I'm just tired of it. It just feels cliche. It seems like every horror movie nowadays is just doing that. They're just touching on those two things. Pick something else. Pick different emotions. There's plenty of other emotions out there. Just do something else, please. But when I say that this movie surprised me, I mean it. This surprised me. I saw this on Hulu. I think when I was watching that movie Swiped, it came up under recommended for some reason on that movie. I have no idea why, but point being is that I saw it and I was like, you know what? Like, let me check that out. Let me read the description. Let me watch the trailer. Trailer intrigued me, but I was like, this could be the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. But I'm going to watch it. I'm going to save it for October, watch it for Spooktacular, review it for Spooktacular. Here we are. We're talking about it. And I did actually enjoy it. I thought it was a pretty effective, solid horror movie. Not the best horror movie I've ever seen, but it is definitely going to be one of those that is divisive. As I could tell, it's getting pretty decent reviews from critics. I think it's got like a 66 on Metacritic or something, but it's got a 5.6 on IMDb. So it's one of those where critics are actually singing its praises to some extent, but it's just not really resonating with audiences, and I can definitely see why. That's the thing. There's not going to be a whole mass appeal to this thing. But when you just get right into what the movie is about, you're going to have me locked in and intrigued immediately. And that's what It Feeds did. And I was very appreciative of that. I didn't have to sit through an entire backstory dump for the first 20 minutes or an entire lore dump for the first 20 minutes. It just got right into the nitty gritty of it all. And I did really enjoy this movie. It's a solid horror movie. If you haven't seen it, I will be curious to know what your thoughts on it are, since I do think it is going to be a divisive one. But let me know if you do see it, what they are in the comments below. And I think It Feeds is a solid movie, and I am going to give it a B. So, guys, stay tuned very soon for more reviews and videos in this Halloween spooktacular. You guys are the best, and thank you for watching. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.